Well, hey, everybody. Happy Tuesday. I'm Dr. Roney. For those of you that have never been on, I want to take this opportunity to welcome you. And for those of you that have been on before, as always, welcome back. We appreciate your feedback. I appreciate your, a lot of people come up to me and tell me about the cancer conversation and how much it's helped them. And that's the objective, right? So if you've never been on before, our goal is a movement, honestly, right? This healthcare system, this healthcare arena that we're in, we need to get the word out. We need to spread the word that there's a lot more out there, especially as it relates to cancer, than what's in the conventional model. I'm not saying it's always bad, ladies and gentlemen, but I'm saying it's kind of like a one chapter of a 20 chapter book. And it can be a very good chapter, but it's a limited chapter. So we are trying constantly to get the information out, to create this movement more towards this integrative approach to cancer, because we see people doing significantly better when they implement those strategies. So anyway, welcome. I want to take a moment to introduce Chris Work. Chris, I've never met you, but I know a ton about you. I've read about you. And I know you and Dr. Keneally are very close, and you're kind of almost mentors to each other in a way. So I want to take the opportunity to welcome you. I know a lot of our audience knows a lot about you as well. So I just want to say thank you for being with us. And Chris, if you don't mind, jump on, tell the audience about yourself. And as Dr. Keneally sits down, we'll kind of get it going.
Okay. Can you see me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. Well, man, I love what you said. It was just fantastic. It's something that I find myself saying all the time is that healing happens at home. Healing happens between treatments.
Yeah.
And the biggest missing piece of the cancer treatment puzzle, right, is that patients are not informed on how they can help themselves heal, right? They just think the treatments are their only option, right? Whether it's the alternative treatments or the conventional treatments, and they go home and they don't make any changes to their life. And the changes that you can make to your life can be some of the most powerful and can literally mean the difference between survival and death. Are those changes that you make at home? They're changing what you eat, changing how you think, changing how you act and react, getting rid of stresses, addressing your stresses head on, exercising. I mean, there's just so much you can do to help yourself. And so I just love that we're so aligned on that message.
Yeah, I love it. Hey, Doc,
Hello, Chris.
Hey, Dr. Keneally, good to see you.
Good to see you too. Chris is one of my favorite people in the whole wide world. I know everybody will love him, and I know already everybody loves you. So welcome to our cancer conversation, because this is an ongoing conversation that we have, because as you said, healing takes place every day. And we need these constant podcasts that you do and I do to constantly remind people how to help heal themselves. And so you're absolutely right about, I tell people there's no finish line to health. It's a constant thing. And we're just an adjunct to what they need to create at home. And so it's wonderful that you and I are, in the same space of trying to help people each and every day be the best version of themselves.
Yeah. And it's funny, we go back all the way back to Kevin Gianni's Healing Cancer World Summit, right? In 2010 or 11 or something. That's when I first heard of you, because he interviewed both of us. And I was like, oh, who's this? And I know you didn't know who I was either. So yeah, we've known of each other for over a decade now, which is pretty cool.
Right, it is. And we've been healing, patients never think that doctors have things. And so we're all patients ourselves, and we just need to be getting better and better at what we're all doing. And I think that was the big thing, Shep, who works with us, because I think what I am so in absolute aghast at is that cancer is growing and growing and growing. And it's 1 in 2 people. And we have a very large cancer institution here that just built a large billion-dollar facility. And they did their own independent study and said that in the next 5 years, there's going to be a 30% increase in cancer. And so I'm like, wait, why are we not all talking about prevention and early detection? I know that's something that we have done because of my own history, and you, because of your own history. We've always been passionate about really prevention, early detection, and if you get diagnosed, it's how not to ever get cancer again. Okay. Yeah. That's like your whole, that's what you live your life to educate yourself. Right. And so I know I've seen in the last 18 months, a dramatic increase in young people with cancer, 30-year-olds. And I'm like, wait, am I the only one seeing this? And of course, I know I'm not, because I'll ask the patients, like, what did your doctor tell you? And that because you're, 30 years old, 32 years old. And they go, oh yeah, we're seeing it. And I'm like, well, why aren't they out? Like, wait a second, we've got to all do something for prevention and early detection. And there's so much out there on prevention and early detection. I know you talk about it. All right. And so, but there's many people. So why is it that the medical profession is not, participatory, predictive, precise, preventive in their approach to care if we're seeing this pandemic?
Well, I think if they focused their attention on prevention, they would never make their money back on the billion-dollar building they just built.
Well, that's very true. The more scans, the more medicines.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if they can invest $1 billion to build a new facility, clearly they're expecting a lot of profit, right?
Right.
And the profit is from the treatments, right? And the simple answer is the truth, which is that there's no money in prevention, right? There's no money to be made in telling people how to eat. There's no money to be made in teaching people how to exercise and educating them on how incredibly powerful exercise is, not just for your exterior body, but for the inside.
Correct.
And there's no money in teaching people how harmful and destructive stress is and helping them cope with and forgive people who've hurt them and deal with their problems and eliminate these stresses in their life and get their life in order. There's no money in any of that. And it's so incredibly valuable. Those are the most valuable things you can do for yourself, and they cost you almost nothing. And so, yeah, I mean, look, that's unfortunately, that's just the way the medical model has been crafted over time, is just to generate maximum profit from patients. And obviously, every physician deserves to be compensated for what they do. I mean, I have no problem with that. But when we're talking about chronic diseases like cancer, heart disease, diabetes, so many of these preventable diseases, the focus has just gotten completely off of trying to help people avoid these diseases and heal them. And all the money is in the treatments. The money's in the drugs, the money's in the surgeries, the money's in the radiation therapy or the clinical trials. So, which is drugs. So yeah, it is frustrating. And you mentioned, young adult cancers. Obviously, I was diagnosed at 26 with stage 3 colon cancer. So I was kind of on the early first wave, I guess, of young adult colon cancers. But every year I see all these reports from, the American Cancer Society and from the ASCO conference. And I'm a dork. I'm kind of a dork about, cancer research. I really pay attention to it. And every year they're just saying the number of young adult colon cancers is on the rise every year. And I'd love to know if you're seeing I feel like young adult breast cancer is also becoming more common, but for sure, I know colon cancer is, and it's in all the official reports. And look, colon cancer is by and large a dietary cancer. It's driven by our dietary choices, junk food, fast food, processed food, like all of this, too much alcohol, excessive amounts of animal protein. These are driving disease. And so, it's hard to get people to change their bad habits, right? It's hard to get people to stop eating fast food and junk food and processed food because it tastes good, it's easy, it's everywhere. I get it. It's like people don't want to change. And in my audience is basically made up of two types of people, maybe three really: cancer patients, caregivers, and then people who are really serious about prevention, usually because they've seen cancer up close.
Right.
Right. They've seen their mom, their dad, their brother, sister, family member, best friend. Like they've seen someone they care about go through it. And so now they're what I call cancer conscious, right? They're acutely aware of how devastating this disease is and how destructive the treatments are. And they really don't want to get it. Right.
Right.
So they're being proactive, which is great. Like, gosh, it's so much easier to prevent it because if you're in prevention mode, you don't have all the stress and the fear and the anxiety and, the urgency of a diagnosis. And that's where patients get sucked into saying yes to treatments that they don't understand, that can be incredibly brutal and have lifelong consequences.
Mm-hmm. Right. I always tell patients, because, I had my patient today, she's been following me for 5 years. And she's read my book and everything. And she came to me because she was diagnosed with breast cancer. And she goes, Dr. Gilling, I should have come to you way before, but I was feeling fine. I feel good. Just like you said, I feel great. Everything's fine. Nothing's no big deal in life. But I tell people, I meet a lot of patients who felt fine the day before they were diagnosed. In fact, right before I came up, I had a doctor who is perfectly fine, plays pickleball every day. And all of a sudden, he's got abdominal pain and he's got stage 4 cancer everywhere. Okay. And, and this is a medical doctor. All right. And so, now he did work at Kaiser, which probably is it's not preventive at all, that institution. It's completely reactive medicine. But here he is, it's everywhere. And he's doing chemotherapy and he's doing the companion, stuff at home and here and everything, IVs, et cetera, that we've had him do. His disease is stable, but, we're not going to the next, unfortunately not getting better, but that's something probably that he could have prevented. And so, but we know that the cure for cancer is prevention. We know that. And we have the availability. I know you talk about the blood test on your seminars. I've seen them, the blood tests they can do, the liquid biopsies they can do, so many different things that patients can do, prevent, but it just doesn't sell. But now we're realizing in medicine that it has to be, we can't be continually allow the train wrecks to happen because we can't continue on. US ranks 43rd in the world in healthcare, and we spend 2.5 times more than any other nation. And what I think you and we all know is that disease is now everybody. It's not just, adult 60 plus, it's the autism. The young people who have elementary kids have 60% have one or more chronic illnesses. The teenagers have anxiety, depression, suicide, and violence at the highest level ever in society. Mm-hmm. And now we have all these young people with cancer. So we're going to have like our whole community now is drained. And so we got to create health as our number one value nationwide, and it's not. But it has to be. We need to start doing that now, right this second. We've got to prioritize health as your number one value. And it starts at home, in your family, how you were born, in utero, and, and how you are feeding from there on out. And how you're living and your environment and, the whole environment is critical. And because we cannot continue as a society the way we are. And it's really, community is designed to help one another be the best, to be, we all have special abilities and we all can help each other be the best. But just think how productive nation we'd be if we all focused on health, then everybody would be highly functional and highly capable. Mm-hmm. So we all need to really say, okay, it's time for all of us. And I always think, okay, how can I make our message, your message, my message so contagious, like ChatGPT. It just went, why?
Yeah.
Why isn't the desire to be a Navy SEAL and a genius? Why isn't that contagious? Right?
Yeah, I don't, I hear you. I get it. I don't know. It's like I mean, I have theories. One of them is that we're spoiled, right?
Yeah.
We are spoiled in America. We are a rich nation. Even the poorest Americans, right, have access to food. There's food everywhere, right? We have TV, we have internet, we have, most of us are housed, comfortably. And because our nation is so wealthy, we've just become complacent and lazy, and we're suffering the effects of a westernized, industrialized country. And yeah, I mean, it's like we don't have any hardship, and I'm not saying that like, I know people have hardships, but when you compare the United States to, say, Saudi Arabia, right? Or like most of Africa, right? Most of the Middle East, most of Southeast Asia, most of China, like when you see how other humans are living in squalor, right? And with almost no money at all, right? And very limited resources and food. Like you just realize, oh my gosh, we're just so blessed, but we're also spoiled, right? And we're overeating, we're lazy, we have entertainment 24/7 on a million channels, and Netflix and streaming, and like, this is what happens, when you're not eating food that you grew or that your neighbors grew, right, or raised. And when you're not out working with your hands, you're not getting fresh air and sunshine. Yeah, your health is going to degrade over time, and that's now we're just dealing with the effects of this progression of Western civilization. So I wanted to ask you, because just going back to what we said earlier, are you seeing more young adult cancers, other types of cancer besides colon cancer, and which ones?
Yes. So I would say in the last 18 months, I have seen a dramatic increase in young people. In fact, one of the patients today commented, she's an older patient. She goes, oh my gosh, I can't believe the amount of young people here. And so, but we're seeing everything from brain tumors to colon cancer, to breast cancer, to pancreatic cancer in young people. I mean, we're seeing a little bit of I would say everything.
What do you say about the warranty thing?
Yeah.
You mention that all the time.
Yeah. So I used to, because I've been practicing 37 years, and I used to say to my patients, okay, you kind of have a warranty until you're 40. And then from 40 to 60, you're on the semi-warranty. And after 60, it's pure repair, upkeep, and maintenance. But now I can't say that because I have all these young people. I mean, I've had 19-year-olds here with cancer, stage 4. Okay. I had a patient call me yesterday because their son had gingivitis of their gum. And they go, Dr. King, we don't want to do anything until we talk to you. And I said, okay, I contacted the biological dentist. He said, I can take care of it. Well, then I called them back and they go, oh, he's in the hospital because he's got anemia. And I go, well, you didn't tell me that. And I just found out that the grandfather told me the child has AML. Okay. A leukemia. So it's like, I mean, and the amount of kids we've seen with Hodgkin's, I'm like, this is not okay. This is not normal. And, it's hard enough. I mean, I have these young mothers in here. They have these beautiful young children they've got to take care of. And then they've got, stage 4 cancer. And it's like, this is not what it should be like. Okay.
No. Well, you mentioned 18 months. I mean, something happened in the last 18 months. And I interviewed Dr. Ryan Cole, and, he saw a huge surge as soon as a particular drug was rolled out. Within just a couple of months of an injectable drug that we all know what it's called was rolled out, big surge. And he runs the largest pathology lab in Idaho. I mean, he just saw boom, just a spike in a number of different cancers. and he's like, look, the only correlation is this new drug that had no long-term safety testing.
Right.
So, I mean, yeah, that, that's concerning.
Right.
So you've got, this kind of goes back to what we said earlier, but if you just look at young people, you've got more young people on medications than ever before.
That's true.
Right? All types of pharmaceuticals. And we know there are multiple pharmaceuticals that cause immunosuppression, right? Mild to moderate to, and sometimes severe, especially when drugs are combined. We've got a lot of different pharmaceuticals that are known to cause cancer. They tell you right at the end of the commercials, right? They have cancer risks. So we've got more young people than ever that are taking pharmaceuticals that can be suppressing their immune system or directly causing cancer, or both. Couple that with the poor diet and no exercise, just watching TV and playing video games all the time. Couple that with the highest level of environmental pollution that we've ever had, right? I mean, it's really bad. I'm not trying to just scare people, but like the forever chemicals. I mean, this has gotten a lot of media attention, I'd say, in the last 12 months, like the PFOAs and PFAS, is that right?
Yep. Yeah.
Perfluoral chemicals that linger in the environment literally forever. Like they never degrade.
Right.
DuPont has dumped who knows how many billion gallons or some nonsense into the environment, and a lot of other companies. And so it's like, that's not helping either. So we have this cascade, right, of health destroying factors. And it's like, it's not just one thing. It's like, it's all the things combined.
Right.
And, I think the environmental piece, that's the most difficult, right? Because most of that is invisible. You don't smell it. You don't taste it. You don't know you're being exposed. You don't know you're being poisoned with environmental pollution. And that's a hard problem to solve. And it's hard to get away from if you don't even know you're, in it. I mean, of course, you can test your tap water. You can, buy a really good water filter. That's a good start. Reverse osmosis or Berkey or whatever. But changing your diet is huge.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah.
eating organic food.
Yeah. I call it the great poisoning we're in.
Yeah.
And people have no clue because like you said, you can't taste it, feel it, touch it, or anything. And so unfortunately, there's like in everything. I mean, and if you look at the air pollution, the water pollution's got the pharma water, the chemical water, all the halogens. I mean, it's heavy metals, parasites, etc. And then your food, you need to know your farmer. You need to know where you're buying all of your, produce and your protein and everything. And you have to know that they're going to be an ethical company. Like I was talking to a patient today, and she lives in Cardiff by the sea. And she said, Dr. Kinley, I know my farmers. I know where I buy my meat. I know where. So she had it down, and that's kind of the way we have to live today, because, we've in these last several years, it's hard to trust, what the information, because you're not given the information. So you've got to do, I always tell people, we have to be diligently educating ourselves and look outside the box all the time and go down the rabbit hole. Take that deep dive into something and really understand, because you can't, I always tell people on PubMed, there's an article on one chemical, but no one can tell you what the synergistic potential of the 200 that's in your blood. And
right.
And that's just the chemicals and toxins. And then you add stress, and then you talk about not sleeping, and then you talk about your nutritional deficiencies. And then, you have a recipe for a perfect storm.
Storm.
But
so, there's good news, right? The good news is that so many of these health destroyers can be eliminated from your life. They can be mitigated to a very large degree when you change what you eat, right? When you start eating organic produce, well, all of a sudden you're reducing your toxic load immediately when you start eating organically grown food, because you're not eating all these pesticides, fungicides, herbicides, all this kind of junk. So, I mean, they've done studies. I talk about this in my book, and I think you probably talk about it too. I mean, when they put people on an organic diet and measure their urine, there's this huge drop in pesticides that they're peeing out, right?
Yeah.
Like that's good. And glyphosate. So like changing your diet is huge. exercise improves detoxification. So when you're exposed to harmful chemicals that you don't know about, number one, fruits and vegetables have all these incredible antioxidant protective molecules, right, that help protect you from damage from environmental pollution. But then exercise also increases your immune function and stimulates detoxification through moving your lymphatic system and through sweating. So those are just two things that are so simple. Because again, I hate to scare people and then not give them a solution, right? Problem, solution. So filtering your air and your water, like those are, great things to do. Changing your home products, your cleaning products, your body care products, like picking those organic, non-toxic brands that are really conscientious about the ingredients they use. Going to the environmental working group website, finding brands that have really clean ratings. It's not hard to do. You just, like you said, you just have to decide, okay, I need to make my health a priority. I need to start making these changes to my life, these simple shifts in my daily routine and in the products that I use and the food that I eat. And guess what? All those small changes add up over time, right? There's a big result from making all these little changes and being consistent with them. So it may feel overwhelming or sound overwhelming. You don't have to make all these changes tomorrow, right? Like it takes time to change your life, but guess what? You can change what you eat tomorrow. You can literally change that tomorrow. You can start exercising tomorrow. Those are two big ones, right? And then start working on to buy some different deodorant, right? Buy some clean toothpaste, then you start kind of working through the other stuff. And then working on your attitude, right? Your emotions, the stress in your life, like those aspects take time to work through. And I think the biggest overlooked factor, and I know you know this, Dr. Keneally, is stress. I mean, stress is a health destroyer. And in so many ways, I mean, when we're in a state of stress, our immune system is suppressed, okay? When we're afraid, when we're angry, when we're bitter, when we're resentful, when we are judgmental and critical, like you're literally producing hormones that suppress your immune function. So you have to catch yourself you have to interrupt your own bad behavior. This is what, it's like the way you think can be a very bad habit. And we get in bad habits of thought, and it's kind of like biting your fingernails, right? If you bite your fingernails, when you're in the middle of biting a fingernail, you can kind of realize you're doing it and stop, right? You can just take your finger out of your mouth and be like, oh, okay, I'm going to stop biting my fingernails, right? It's the same thing with these bad thought habits. Like when you're being envious of people, when you're being critical, when you're being judgmental, when you're worrying, you can interrupt that. You can catch yourself doing it and be like, okay, I'm not going to worry. I'm choosing not to worry. Right? I'm choosing not to judge this person. I'm choosing not to be critical. I'm choosing not to be jealous. I'm going to choose to count my own blessings. What do I have in my life that's good? Let me just count my blessings. I've got a house, I've got food, I've got clothes, all the people that love me, let me just count them up, And so this is what cancer taught me to do. Right. I wasn't doing any of this before cancer. But I realized that my mental and emotional life was a mess. I had just gotten into all these bad thought habits, and I don't think I'm unique. I think they're pretty common with most people. But the good news is if you want to change, you can. And if you're willing to do the work and really catch yourself and retrain your brain, you can change who you are. You can change the person that you are. If you don't like who you are when you look in the mirror, you can actually improve yourself, right? And be a better person and a more likable person, a person that you like. And so, I'm rabbit trailing a little bit on stress, but the thing is when you're in a state of stress, your immune system's suppressed, you're promoting inflammation. Those are the two main cancer drivers, inflammation and immunosuppression. And what we do when we're stressed compounds the problem. Because when we're stressed, we'll find a way to self-medicate, right? Right. That's what we do. We seek medication. So how do we medicate? Food, right? Usually the unhealthy kind, ice cream, right? A pizza, whatever. Drugs, the legal kind and the illegal kind. alcohol, cigarettes. Well, guess what? Smoking is the number one cause of cancer. Alcohol is a huge cause of cancer, and unhealthy diet and obesity are the second leading cause of cancer. So all of our self-medicating habits to deal with our stress are actually like compounding our health problems and our cancer risk. And that's why stress is so insidious, right? A lot of doctors and experts try to just like shrug it off and roll their eyes when you start talking about stress. But like once you understand this, how stress impacts human behavior, well, it's fully documented what stress does to your physical body, right? But then when you understand what stress does to your impacts your behavior and your coping mechanisms, then all of a sudden, then all of a sudden the light bulb goes off. You're like, oh yeah, no, it's like I'm hurting my physical body and then I'm coping in ways that are super unhealthy. And it's not like a stressful week's going to give you cancer, right? That's not what I'm saying, but it's the years, right? People are living in these like high stress, like lifestyles for years and years and years. And it could be money, it could be school, it could be in their work environment, their family life, like stuff from their past, worries about the future. It just turns into this like snowball of stress. And so one by one, like what we teach in our community is like, you got to make a list. You got to make a to-do list. You got to write down like, what is stressing you out? What are your biggest sources of stress and anxiety? And like, let's get them on paper. And then one by one, let's work through this list and figure out how to eliminate this stress from your life. So that takes time. Changing your diet, you can do tomorrow. You can do tonight, right? Exercising, you can do tonight or tomorrow. Like you can start that right away, but like working through the stress takes time, but it's so important. And it really is I think the biggest missing piece of the puzzle. What do you think?
Yeah, I would say what I've learned, because in medical school and in training, it's always just react, analyze, analyze data. Okay. It's never sit down and talk to the patient, understand their life journey from the time they were born to where they are today. And so 20 years ago, I was getting a divorce and my life was upside down. And because I married my father and I did not have a good relationship with my dad. I'm one of 6 kids and I never got recognition from my dad. And I always wanted to be A+, everything. I got to go do this. I got to do this. I got to play volleyball and I got to be a doctor and I got to be this. And because I never got like, oh, I love you. You're just the best thing in the whole wide world. So I married my father and then I met with counselors and I realized, oh, like I'm marrying my dad, the counselor's telling me, and I'm like, he goes like, you cannot continue on like this because you won't even make it the next 5 years. So then that 20 years ago was the most life-changing, wonderful thing that ever happened to me. And so I worked with the life coach and then I started reading every book I could read about stress and how it affected you and how it all happens. And I remember listening to a phenomenal cassette tape by Thich Nhat Hanh. And Thich Nhat Hanh, it was cassette, so it was a long time ago. And it was how to turn negative seeds into positive seeds. And so I started thinking everything negative and how my disadvantage became my advantage and worked as a blessing in my life. And, so from that point on, I have studied and I was at a medical conference. This was in Denver, I don't know, probably 15, 18 years ago. And these 2 doctors from Las Vegas, there was a medical conference on cancer and they were talking about Dr. Hammer. And I don't know if you're familiar with Dr. Hammer's work.
Yeah, German New Medicine. Yes.
German New Medicine. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the most fascinating thing. I have got to learn everything about that. So I started taking courses in German New Medicine. And then I'm like, well, gosh, I can't become an expert in that, emotional conflict resolution like he did. I've got to get somebody. So I took the initial classes and then I had a couple of people learn how to do that. And and if you look at Gabor Mate and you look at all these people, like they are just really putting all this out. And like you said, the studies are absolutely scientific, how the sabotaging mind rules all of our life, rules all of us. Okay, it's not you, me, it's everyone listening. But like you said, you want to start living consciously. You want to say, like, how am I thinking right now? I want to really turn around my thoughts, okay, and turn those thoughts into positive resolutions. That's why we give all of our patients healing affirmations. And you do it with your book, The Inspiration, that 365 days, because we need to be reminded every day that it's like, even if you get good at it, I think you're good at it. I'm much better at it now because I've been doing it for 20 years. And so you've got to practice this. Like before you get out of bed, you were mentioning, set your mind before you wake up. Be in gratitude for your pillows, the bed, the sheets, the water pure, whatever it is, the strawberries, the blue, whatever it is. If you get to drive a car, thankful for the car you get to drive, everything, that's all you do, and thankful for your children and your patients and everything. And that's the way you must program your mind every single day. And there's not a soul that doesn't need that kind of work. I tell people the number one thing that any person should be doing is to set up an emotional meeting, inventory meeting, an attunement meeting, whatever you want to call it. We call it here EBOX. And we do EBOX because I tell people, do you want to get better faster or slower? So faster is, you do EBOX, and it uses your voice to reprogram unfavorable emotional conflicts. And so I have found that to be the most effective, quick. I heard one of our patients in the hallway said, she told one of the other patients this afternoon, she goes, have you seen this girl who does EBOX? Oh my God, it's going to change your life. And then it's so funny, Chris, because so many patients go, well, I don't need to do that. I said, look, can you just do it one time and tell me you don't need it? And I've never had a patient go, oh no, that wasn't a good thing. So everyone needs to find someone that they trust and knows how to do emotional attunement, and then continue on with it. So I constantly read books that will inspire me. And so to keep me in the right frame of my reference. And we all get caught up in the world today because I think everybody is very disturbed. We had our employee appreciation party on Friday afternoon, and one of my young nurses came to me and she goes, Dr. Keneally, I'm so stressed about the world. I mean, she's young, 30 something years old. And I tell people, the most important thing that you can do every day is send peace, love, and joy out to the world. That's what you can do, because there's something called the field, the quantum field, which I think you probably know Lynn McTaggart, right? And she talks, I read her book many years ago. We all have the power to change what's going on by being the positive version of ourselves and emanating peace, love, and joy every single day. And so, we know we can't control what's going on every single way. We all know that there is disaster on every front. We know that, but we can also be the person that's going to change the way the field really works by us all. That's why meditation works. And that's why they offer group peace meditations, because the synergy of people and creates harmony. And so we all, we just all need to, do that, and really practice it, and then teach others also how to be peaceful, loving, and joyful. So
I agree. It's you're just right on the money. It's like, I love what you said, earlier about trying to find the good seeds in a bad situation. And I, had to do the same thing. And this is, again, the same thing I'm trying to share with folks and teach them to do. It's like, anytime something bad happens that you perceive as bad, you can stop yourself and say, wait a minute, okay, what are the good things? You just turn on your imagination. What are the good things that could come out of this? Right? And as you start to, and then all of a sudden you've just shifted the way you think about it. Instead of just saying, this is bad, woe is me, my life's terrible. You say, okay, this thing happened. I don't like it. It seems bad, but maybe something good's going to come out of this. And what good could come out of this? And you just start to think differently about it. Right. And it kind of removes the emotion and yeah, it's so powerful. And I'm certainly not perfect at it, but cancer taught me how to do it. And I practice that regularly, because, hey, my life ain't perfect. Like, I'm still dealing with, just disappointments or setbacks or frustrations. It's just life, The other thing that, your employee, I think you said, that was worried about the world, you got to tune out.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the human mind, we were not designed to be able to process every problem in the world. We can't do it. We cannot handle it. Okay. We can't. And if you think about our ancestors, before television, right, and radio, the only problems you knew about were literally like in your village, and they were usually pretty minor, right? Like, oh, the farmer down the road, had 2 cows mauled by some wolves, right? Or whatever. Or like, oh, it hasn't rained in a while. That's kind of a problem for the crops. It's like, now it's like you turn on the television or you get online and you see a report of every problem in every country in the world, every state in the union, every city. It's too much. Like, and if you don't understand that, I think most people don't understand it, and they just keep consuming this fear and worry and anxiety producing information, right? I mean, it's a diet, right? This is a diet. You're consuming it. And what it's doing to you is it's raising your stress and your worry and your anxiety. And so the only way to get out of that cycle is you just have to stop consuming, right? Stop feeding your fear, right? Because that's what you're doing. You're feeding your fear. And so it's not like you have to be in a total state of ignorance, your whole life and not know anything that's going on. But you want to be what you realize is, A, you have no power to influence most of the problems in the world. Like, nothing you can do about them, right? And B, a lot of these problems resolve themselves anyway, and so you just wasted you sacrificed your joy worrying about problems that you couldn't solve anyway. So what we encourage is focus on solving your own problems,
Right?
right? Stop worrying about the world's problems and worry about your own personal problems. Not worry, but focus your attention on those and work to solve those, right? Your happiness and your joy and your contentment and your satisfaction and gratitude, all those things increase. Your fulfillment in life, all those things go up. All the good things go up when you stop worrying about the world and focus on solving your own problems.
Right. That's exactly right. So we're going to go to questions, Chris.
Sure.
Okay, good. Shep's going to join me. So,
Hey.
all right. So where are the questions?
All right. So let's just do. My goodness, we have a lot.
Okay.
All right.
83 questions. Here we go.
And then we'll just, mark 'em.
Okay. Okay. So best tips for supporting an immune system. So Chris, you can go and I'll support something that you maybe didn't mention.
Sure. Yeah. And my answer is the simple things, right? We know the science is very clear on what you can do to support your immune system. Number one thing you do is the food that you put in your mouth. Fruits and vegetables have all these wonderful compounds that improve the function of your immune system. One easy example is blueberries. They increase natural killer cell activity in your body. That's fantastic, right? Sunshine and vitamin D improve and increase your immune function. These are very simple things, right? So food, exercise increases your immune function, improves your immune function, and then reducing stress. So again, all the same stuff I'm talking about. Because at the end of the day, your immune system is the difference between tumors and no tumors.
That's right.
It's the strength of your immune system. Your immune system is the difference between a mild infection and a hospitalization for a severe infection. It's your immune system. So everything that I've already said today in terms of the things to do to promote health in large part because they're improving or optimizing the function of your immune system. So it's, yes, you're supplying all these wonderful vital nutrients to your cells, and you're improving detoxification, and you're improving the function of your immune system. Diet, exercise, stress reduction. Those are the big three.
And sunshine, people
Sunshine.
people don't realize you need, we've been told for years to not be on the sun, but we need sunlight. And it would be a good idea for people to get barefoot and
Yes.
walk on natural substances, especially with all the electromagnetic field exposure. So everybody needs to get barefoot. I knew growing up, we were barefoot all the time. Now it's like, put your shoes on. No, but it's the opposite. We need to just walk and be connected to the earth
I ground myself every day.
Yes.
Barefoot. I go out in my yard. I pull weeds. I just putter around, let the dog out. If I'm on a phone call, I'm often outside barefoot talking on the phone.
Right.
It's not hard to do.
Right.
And getting in nature, getting into nature is so powerful. Like going on walks in the woods. It's
Forest
so
based.
powerful.
Yes.
They've done studies on this. It
Yes.
reduces your stress.
It's a treatment. Yes.
Two things happen when you forest bathe. They call it forest bathing. It just means going to spend some time in the woods, right? In nature. Two things happen. One, immune function improves. And two, your stress hormones reduce.
Right. That's right.
Yeah. I mean, the simple things cost you nothing.
Right. Get outside and enjoy the beautiful.
Right. Spend time outside every day if you can.
Right. Yeah. So, and adjunctively, so sometimes people, when I do immune function panels on patients all the time, because they usually come here in a very serious situation. So one of the best things I like is vitamin C. I tell people vitamin C is the antidote to everything, like whether it's heavy metals and toxicity helps your immune system. It's great if you get a cold or flu. And it's great for cancer. So vitamin C, a natural version is always great. If you can't get natural versions, there's natural versions like camu, but sometimes you're going to have to do, other types of vitamin C. I sometimes use thymosin on patients. Thymosin's a peptide to increase your white count. Patients come in. I usually try to figure out why you have a low white count, because usually it's a chronic infection. And if you have chronic infections, your white count's going to be low. So the doctor should be they always tell the patient it's normal. It's not normal to have a low white count. So the doctor needs to figure out, and usually there's natural things like methylene blue and many other natural things to get rid of those infections and get your white count going. Now, a lot of times I'll use things to activate. I use something called Empower. I use this Japanese product also called BRM4. That is amazing compound to increase natural killer cells. So I'll figure out, depending on what patient's blood work, because I actually will check the patient to see what they may or may not need. Mistletoe I use in cancer patients, especially if they're advanced cancer. I will use mistletoe. Usually subcutaneous, sometimes intravenous, depending upon the situation. So definitely you got to start with the basics. I tell people though, if you can't, all of these other treatments will not trump the basic day-to-day living with a pattern of good sleep, good water, good food, exercise, sunshine, and being in nature. Nothing's going to trump that. So I tell people you've got to do the basics. So
someone commented and said, I don't think it's that simple. And I just want to just encourage you. It is. The simple things that people are not willing to do are the most powerful.
Right.
People, they're dismissed because people think, oh, that's too simple. Like I want something complicated. It's like, no, just trust us. Do this. I've been 20 years now. Like my 20-year cancer anniversary is in December. It's like, I'm telling you over and over and over, I've interviewed dozens and dozens and dozens of people who have healed all types and stages of cancer with a holistic approach. Some of them no treatment at all. Some of them after conventional treatment failed. And we all did the same simple things that you and I just talked about.
Right. So the next question is, what is your opinion on low sugar diet and intermittent fasting to fight cancer?
Okay, well, that's two totally different things, but there's some pretty good research on intermittent fasting, and definitely eating all your meals within an 11-hour window. That's like 100% everyone should do that. And there may be additional benefit to eating in an 8-hour window. I'm not sure that a smaller window, and maybe Dr. Cornelia, you know more about this than me and have read more on it, but in that as far as what I've read, 11 hours, 8-hour window, meal eating window is good. That's a good way to live. And by the way, 11-hour window, I mean, that's like you eat breakfast at 7 and dinner by 6. It's like that's easy. We know that late night eating is horrible for you.
Right.
And there was some really cool, interesting research where they found that human subjects who were fed the same meal at breakfast and then later at dinner, the exact same meal, had twice the insulin response at dinner, after dinner. And so, because what happens in the morning, your body is primed to use food that you eat as fuel, and it takes that energy, the calories, the energy from food, and it sends it to your muscles.
Right.
To burn for the day's activities. But at nighttime, your body knows you're not about to go do a bunch of work. And so the food you eat at night is treated as, let's store this for later, right? So you have this double insulin response, more fat storage, and plus it interferes with the quality of your sleep when you eat late too. So like the best strategy to me is like eating an early dinner, right? So that's the intermittent fasting. That's my opinion there. And then low sugar. Well, sugar's kind of, I feel like sugar's gotten a bad rap because fruit is awesome. It's so wonderful. There's so many vitamins, minerals, enzymes, antioxidants, anti-cancer compounds, fiber, water, prebiotics. That's the fiber that feeds good gut bacteria, probiotic bacteria, right? That's good bacteria. You get all that in this wonderful package when you eat organic fruit. And so I think fruit's just been demonized, and people think like an apple equals a Snickers bar or something. And it's like, because all they're doing is measuring, how many how many sugar, grams of sugar in it or something. So my anti-cancer diet was 2 giant salads. I mean, a ton of the cruciferous vegetables every single day. I was drinking vegetable juices, and I was eating fresh fruit and making fruit smoothies with berries. And so to me, and we see a lot of people do this in our community and get well. Some people are more strict and they just focus on the vegetables and they're a little leery of the fruit. They're still not, I feel like they have a little bit of fruit fear, and that's okay, but I just think fruit is so good. God made it. Jesus, when he talked about the fruit of the Spirit, right? Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, gentleness, goodness, self-control. He didn't say the vegetables of the Spirit, right? He said fruit. So, fruit must be pretty good.
Right. No, fruit is absolutely, like you said, the peel, the fruit, the water, and I mean, all the nutrients, and it has a very high energetic value. So it is, I think maybe they ask sugar and it's conventional, like in Oreo cookies, which would probably not be good, or, conventional processed sugar. Most things, unfortunately, sugar is just processed and they put sugar in everything. So you need to be very mindful of when you talk about sugar, we're talking about the nature fruit,
Yeah, in its natural form, in this whole food
form. So it's a
matrix. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oreos and processed sugar and corn syrup and sodas.
Yeah.
No, you got to cut that stuff out.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Chris, what are your thoughts now on a small amount of grass-fed finished animal protein?
Well, my opinion is like, if you're going to eat animal foods, there's 2 criteria. One is it needs to be high quality and low quantity. And when we look around the world at the healthiest, longest living people, like the Blue Zones, for example, they're not vegan. They're not vegetarian, except the Seventh-day Adventists are predominantly vegetarian. But a lot of these people groups with exceptional health and long life that are living past 100, again, they're not vegans. but they just eat a small amount of animal food compared to the United States. So they might, on average, they're eating 95% plant-based. And what that equates to practically is like they might eat a serving of animal protein a couple times a week versus in America, it's like 3 times a day. So I think that's a good model. I think it's a good example to follow, especially for someone that's into prevention, is just being mindful of the quality of animal protein and the quantity. Personally, I'm not a vegan. I'm not a vegetarian. I don't like dietary identities, but I eat a plant-based diet. And it's about 98%, 99% plant-based. So, occasionally I might have a piece of wild-caught salmon, or, occasionally maybe I'll have some eggs or something, but it's just a few times a month. It's very low for me.
Right. All right, Chris, did you have to continue to have any issues with your colon surgery?
I am blessed and thankful that I did not have any complications after colon surgery.
So that's very good.
Yeah. The
And
only
then-
thing is like, and this isn't a detriment to my life, but when I eat a meal, I will feel the urge to go to the bathroom within about an hour because my colon is, shorter. So that's the only difference.
Right. Right. So did you recover well after your surgery?
I did. Yeah. I didn't, I don't know what typical recovery is for colon surgery, but they make you eat a meal within about 24 hours of doing the surgery, right? So my meal was a sloppy Joe. Most people have heard that story, the first meal the hospital gave me, which was so horrific. But they want to make sure that, the tube is connected properly and everything is going down the tube as it should and coming out the back door. So yeah, no, I didn't have no complications.
Good. That's wonderful. So a patient asks, is rescanning necessary once deemed in remission? So I'll answer that since, I will tell people scanning always comes with the downside. So I always tell people that every doctor has to decide on what is necessary depending on what the cancer is, the scope of their cancer. Is it just in a single location or is it in multiple locations in the body? What is their blood values? What are their markers like? So I think I individually decide because patients now become much more aware of the dangers of CT scans and PET scans. They are radiation. CT scans are 500 times the power of a chest X-ray, and a PET is 600 times. So we always give our patients radiation protection, which we talked about last conversation. So anyone can refer to that. And so it just really depends. I love ultrasounds. Ultrasounds are non-injurious, non-invasive way. They don't look at everything, but they do give vital information on a large part of the body. But again, it will depend obviously on each individual patient and their circumstances. All right.
I can just share my personal.
Yeah, I think it's great.
My personal experience was after my diagnosis, I had blood work done every month and I had a CT scan every 6 months for a couple of years. And I didn't even know at that time, that CT scans were 500 times more powerful than an X-ray in terms of radiation. And then after, maybe 4 CT scans, then I was like, okay, they kept coming back clean. And I'm like, I think I'm good. And I went back around the 5-year mark for another one. So, again, working with your doctor, figuring out a strategy, you want to monitor, right? And it's good now that there are safer ways to monitor your progress with blood testing. There's a lot of blood testing, options, as Dr. Keneally can certainly expound on, but that plus ultrasound being safe and things. Yeah. You don't want to just be flying blind. You want to keep an eye on things.
That's true. So that leads up to the next question. Have you taken the RGCC test? And if so, is your number 0? And if it's not, does that mean your cancer is still active?
I've never taken it.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know.
So the definition, so people, a lot of patients ask this, and I see a couple of questions already here about if your cancer, what is the definition of remission? So the definition of remission in many oncologists' minds is a scan that says NED, no evidence of disease. But actually, the oncology books say that circulating tumor cells it should be 0 to 1, and that is when you are in remission. Now, I will tell you, in the United States, there's not very many laboratories that accurately check circulating tumor cells. There's multiple labs. I have used all the labs because I'm always interested in that kind of testing. There's 5 new journal articles a day on circulating tumor cell testing.
Wow.
And so it's the fastest growing discussion, I would say, on PubMed, one of the fastest growing. And anyway, so I have used RGCC for about a dozen years, or maybe longer, maybe 13, 14 years. Anyway, and I have tried other laboratories, but when I did 25 specimens on a particular lab in San Diego, I got 0 on everybody. And I go, well, that's mathematically impossible on cancer patients. And so I will tell you, though, that before I had circulating tumor cell testing, I did very extensive blood tests, and I did the bioimmune survey. So one of my mentors had sarcoma, and many years ago at the A4M conference in Las Vegas, I met him, and he told me his life story. And he was 22 when he was diagnosed with sarcoma. And they told him, okay, we have to amputate your leg. And he went to the hospital, and the doctor didn't know his name. So he said, well, I'm sending out AMA. If you don't know my name, you're not going to do surgery on me. So he spent the next 11 years figuring out how to save his leg. And he basically learned how to cure himself of cancer. So I learned lots from him. But one of the things that I learned about is he met this Dr. Wang in China, and he used these herbs for hundreds of years. Okay. And we've been using them in our clinic. And I call it herbal chemo, basically, because it's herbs that actually fight cancer. So you have acupuncture points in your fingers and toes that correspond to every organ and gland in your body. And we look for interference in those acupuncture meridians. And then we also will do something called the cancer cascade, which is a timeline for cancer. So usually we find cancer at year 10, but his dream was to set up many cancer clinics, checking this bioenergetically all over the world. And so I have continued to do that testing. And so before I had circulating tumor cells, I just did that testing, and I knew that patients were good because that testing would tell me, and it was actually accurate. In the very beginning, I had no idea. And then I took a bunch of patients, and I'm like, oh my God, this tells me like exactly, without blood testing, without anything, what this was. And so I've been using it now for about probably 24, 25 years. And so, there's lots of discussion about circulating tumor cell testing. The traditional route for in oncology today is to do a chemistry, a CBC, and maybe a tumor marker, if there is a tumor marker for your particular kind of cancer, and scanning, depending upon the doctor and your particular situation. I just want to thank each and every one of you, especially Chris, for joining us today. And I would like for all of you to be a beacon of love and light and help people help themselves, share this information, try to help us create this, worldwide contagion so that we are on a path of prevention in health, not just in cancer, but everything.
Thank you, Dr. Keneally. It's been such a treat, such an honor. I'm just so glad to know you. I'm so glad that you exist, that you're doing just the great work that you do on the front lines. And I know you've helped countless people, and I love your just passionate, insatiable desire for knowledge and just to stay on top of all the cutting edge testing and treatments and non-toxic therapies and all that. I mean, it's just awesome.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
All right, everybody, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll keep you posted on the upcoming cancer conversation. Thank you for Chris and Dr. Keneally. We appreciate all
Thank
of
you,
you.
Shep.
All right, God bless you. Bye.